All right, team, welcome to another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Hamilton. Delighted to have your company with me from wherever you might be listening to the show from around the world. It is indeed good to have you. Today, we go back to the Reddit threads, an always interesting place to see what's on the minds of fellow managers and leaders from around the world. And this particular person that we're going to have a look at today says she needs some advice because she's got some new hires, both of which are more experienced and knowledgeable than she is. And as a result, she's feeling a little bit insecure in her position as a team leader. Now, I can certainly relate to feeling that way in the early days of leadership, and I'm sure that several of you listening can as well. But let's hear a little bit more about what she has to say about this particular predicament that she finds herself in. So she says, I'm 27 years old and I had a career change 2 years ago into a new field. I had limited prior experience and mostly held minimum wage, operational style jobs. And to be honest, I was completely underskilled for the job when they hired me, but I was confident that I could do what I needed to be successful. I was promoted after 1 year to a more senior role as a specialist team leader and mentor to 2 new hires with some managerial responsibilities, for which I've had 0 training as of yet. I have a total of 2 years experience. I spent this week inducting and training our new hire. He has about 20 years of experience in this field and is 20 years my senior. He has extensive experience as a service manager and has already begun pointing out flaws in our systems that basically didn't exist before I got there and had to build them from the ground up with little to no experience. But I did that and made it work. The other hire also has extensive experience with managerial experience and is quite a few years my senior also. I want to continue to encourage the new hire to bring his ideas to the table. And of course, we are working together towards improvement, and any help is much appreciated. But also, I'm starting to feel that I'm not really suitable for this role. And I think I might have been given it due to being well liked rather than actually knowing what I'm doing. These 2 hires already know a lot of what I have to teach them, as they have done it all before. I'm feeling almost redundant. The new hire even questioned my experience on the second day and seemed a little bit puzzled that I had a senior role with less experience than he did. Has anyone ever been in a similar position, and how do I navigate this? I want to embrace this as a learning opportunity, but I really am feeling a bit uncomfortable in my position at the moment. So I suppose the first thing that I want to focus on for this poster, and any of you who find yourself out there listening in a similar position, I'm just going to address you as a collective. I'm just going to refer to you as you. I guess the first thing I'd focus on here is that it is not an abnormal or unusual thing to be feeling this way when you're new to leadership and you find yourself in this position where you have 2 people who are significantly senior to you, right, from an experience perspective. You have this imposter syndrome when you enter leadership for the first time. That is normal baseline for everybody, right? This particular example, I think, is going to enhance that feeling even more so, because not only are you new to the role and questioning your own ability, but you are literally interacting day to day with people who make you feel like you're inadequate because they've been there and done that. And you're having to lead those people who, at least according to your perception, know what they're doing with little experience. So it is natural and understandable. I'd say be a little kinder to yourself in accepting that that's a normal thing to feel. I remember when I got my first leadership position, I was tapped on the shoulder. I didn't apply for the role. I didn't indicate that I wanted the role. I was simply told that, hey, you're it because there's nobody left. And on paper, you are the most senior person in the team. And at the time, there were a couple that were very unhappy with my appointment because they felt that it should have been them. Awkward position to find yourself in. I suspect probably more relatable for most than you might think. We've all been there and done that. So there's that. It's normal. Understand that it's not a strange thing for you to be feeling this way. So what are some practical guidelines with respect to how you can go about dealing with this from this point onwards. I want to focus on a little bit of mental framing before we get into the real hands-on sort of stuff. First of all, understand that you might not have the confidence in yourself at the moment, but evidently somebody did because they appointed you to that role, right? Somebody saw something in you that in their mind made you the right person for this role. So if somebody else has shown faith in you, maybe you should show a little bit of faith in yourself. Is it possible that you've missed something that these people haven't? Maybe they've seen something in you that you are yet to be aware of. So that's a possibility. I want you to frame it mentally like that. Okay, maybe I'm missing something. Others see something in me. So with that as your baseline, I want you to focus on, we'll go through 4 or 5 key behaviors that I want you to focus on in this first few months. All right, 3 to 6 months, let's say, as you try and build the trust of these people in you as a leader. Because it is going to take time. It's actually going to take years to fully get people trusting you in a rock solid manner. But I want you to just focus on this from what you're going to do for the next 3 to 6 months perspective, because it's enough time to get feedback, right? It's a significant enough time to get useful feedback. I want you to focus on not trying to establish your authority. Don't try too hard, if you know what I mean. Try and at least come across as being comfortable in your position as a leader. Not threatened by the fact that these people have more experience than you. When you're presented with an idea, not being seen to shut it down because you're insecure that you didn't have the idea first, or that you're worried if you implement it, it might somehow demean you and your authority. That is not how this works. You need to understand that people in your team who have more experience than you, it's an asset to you and your team. When the team performs well, it makes you look good and you get the credit regardless of whether you were the one who came up with the ideas that were implemented. Okay? Just in the same way that if the team performance goes downhill, as a leader, you are held responsible. It works both ways. So understand that. These people are actually an asset to you, and when you go out to the market to hire, you actually want to get people who are the best in their field and who might know stuff that you don't know, because that expertise makes the team as a collective better, and you can leverage it to enhance performance of your team and the business as a whole. So look at it as a positive. Don't be threatened by it. Don't shut down their ideas or ignore their ideas or refuse to implement their ideas out of fear that it's going to make you look less than. That is not the case. Let's tack on to that this other thought, and that is that you need to understand that the more complex your leadership role becomes, the more unrealistic it is to think that you're going to be across every minute detail of the occupations that sit within your team. So you might have, economists, project managers, financial managers, whatever in your team. Take your pick, programmers, whatever industry you work in. Your job is primarily to lead people and organize people, and then generally be across the weeds of what everybody else is doing and how they do their roles. It is not any longer the case that you're being paid to exercise and specialize in a specific discipline that people do within your team. You're now being paid to lead people, organize people, motivate people, keep people on the path to success, remove roadblocks so that they can do their job properly. That is your job as a leader. It's a totally different independent discipline. And that, I think, is a mental shift that this poster needs to make. She's not being paid to be a programmer as such anymore, or whatever the disciplines are in her team. She is being paid to lead and organize people, inspire people. Leadership is its own thing. Someone said, I think you can do it, and they put her in the role. Good, right? Vote of confidence from somebody else. Now it's up to this poster to run with that opportunity and understand what it is she's being paid to do. So people with more experience in the team, awesome. That's a good thing. It's going to make us all look good as a team, and that certainly reflects well on the leader. So get these ideas out on the table. If they're looking at systems that you've designed and developed and said, look, I reckon this is lacking because of A, B, and C, ask them how they'd make it better. Own up to it. Hey, I'm not an expert in these systems. I'm conscious that there are other people who know more than me. If you think there's a better way to do this, please tell us how. Let's implement these ideas. What have you seen elsewhere? Leverage that experience, because at the end of the day, it makes you look good. All right, and it's just a logical thing to do to boost performance. All right, so there's a little bit of mental framing that I want you to focus on. The point that I also want to harp on is that perception is key. We need to understand that a curated perception is important as a leader, because we need to have people believe in us and feel comforted by us being in that leadership presence. So we need to cultivate, yes, an air of authority, which we do carefully, but also this overriding sense that we're in control of any situation that arises. Now, you might not feel like you are, but that's actually irrelevant and beside the point. It's perception of those that you lead that's really important. You can be like the proverbial duck sort of coming along the surface of the water, and he looks cruisy and he's in control, but underneath, he's kicking away like a maniac. That might be you, but the important thing is the observer, i.e. your team members, picture you in a smooth, in control sort of fashion. That's the perception you need to give, even if under the surface it's a bit of a different story. So we talk about perception. Let's play with that a little bit more. I want you to focus on being emotionally level and in control at all times. That's a part of this perception that we're trying to perform and curate. If something gets you flustered, do your best not to show it. If something really pushes your buttons, don't react to it in an over-the-top emotional way. I want you to give off an air of control by absorbing the information, taking time to think about it, and then going through the logical steps that you need to take to solve the issue in a sequential, calm way. Being unflappable as a leader is a quality that inspires confidence in people, because it gives the impression that you can control your emotions and you are in control, importantly, of your being at all times. Conversely, if you lose your temper, if you display a tendency to be irrational and you're in a position of authority, that freaks people out like nothing else. Why? Because you're in a position where you can negatively influence the lives of those people, because you hold that power. They want to know that you're steady, reliable, calm, and all the things, right, that come under that heading. You need to have a steady hand as a leader. Even if you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to be conscious of the perception that you're looking to curate. It doesn't matter whether you've been doing leadership for 20 years or 6 months. You can do that right now. Start right now. Let's piggyback off that and let's talk about having difficult conversations. Now, I've said this time and time again, right, over the history of this podcast, but it is so important. Just as you can lose respect very quickly by losing your temper and coming across as irrational and not driven by logic and reason, a very quick way to lose respect is refusing to have difficult conversations when it's obviously needed. It erodes the confidence that your team has in your authority as a leader. If you have, 9 out of 10 people really doing the right thing and pulling in the same direction and being decent human beings at work, then you have one person who's, highly competent but quite obviously couldn't give a rat's and doesn't care about, company behavioural policy and treats people like rubbish, and you as a leader are not willing to pull that person up and do anything about it. It totally erodes the confidence in everybody else, and let's face it, gives them a reason to start looking elsewhere for employment because they don't want to feel uncomfortable in the workplace. And that is what this person could well be making them feel uncomfortable. It could also make them feel like, well, look, I try hard. I try to, strive to be the best that I can be. But what's the point? This person comes in, behaves however they want, still collects the paycheck, and there's no, consequences that they need to face. So why should I go the extra mile? Why should I try any harder than the next guy when there's no consequences for not trying? So understand your code of conduct, understand the expectations that you are charged with upholding in your workplace. And as a manager, if you have someone who repeatedly behaves in a manner contrary to that code of conduct, make sure you pull them up. Please make sure you pull them up. It is really foundational as a leader and will act as a line in the sand moment, right? People will know that if they push to a certain point, there will be resistance. People need boundaries, and it's your job as a leader to give them that. So they're the two that I wanted to focus on from a perception curation perspective. Now let's delve into the reality that at the end of the day, yes, you haven't been given training, but that is so normal. It's one of the reasons I started this podcast, is because there's a huge gap. Oftentimes people get the shoulder tap, they're not told how to do the job, and we get negative outcomes as a result. Understand that you are now in a position where you're in the role, you're doing the thing, and you need to take responsibility for your own learning. There are numerous resources that you can use, podcasts like this one, and many others. There's plenty of other leadership podcasts, right? So go and check out those and find one that works for you. The other good place to get education is obviously books. So here's one that resonated with me. For those of you just listening to the podcast, it is Extreme Ownership by two gentlemen, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, two Navy SEAL operators who deployed to Iraq. And their theory was basically, in a nutshell, look, if leadership techniques that work here in the battlefield, if they're working in the battlefield, surely they can be applied and be successful in the boardroom. You don't get any more stressful than a battlefield situation. I read that book. I got a lot from it. I was able to understand what they were communicating from a leadership technique perspective and apply it successfully in the boardroom. You might not resonate with material like that. Maybe you need a different, maybe you're not into the military thing. Maybe that turns you off, whatever. There's plenty of other leadership material and books out there. Go and find what works for you. The point is, do the work. Be proactive. Take responsibility for your own learning. And then finally, understand there are indeed leadership courses, formal leadership courses that you can undertake on LinkedIn if you'd like, and through proper educational institutions. Might cost a little bit of money, but you might find that this is actually something that I want to do. So there's numerous resources. In 2026, there has never been a better time to get schooled up on something, whatever it might be. So take responsibility for your own learning. And then finally, for this poster and those of you who might find yourselves in the same boat, understand that this is going to take years, all right? And the reality is that you might not fully win over everybody either. You can get all sorts of personalities in the workplace. At the end of the day, yeah, okay, you might not be able to get absolutely everybody to think that you're worthy. You might not be able to get everybody to respect you, but you need to be able to respect yourself, right? Have you done what is required? Have you behaved according to your own standards? Are you a leader that you would like to follow? Are you exhibiting those behaviors that you respect in other leaders? So can you respect yourself? Get yourself a mentor. There's another one that I probably could have covered a bit earlier as well. If you are looking at podcasts and books and all those sorts of things, that's great. But even, have a look at other people. Are there others in your network that have been there and done that? Have they led for 20 years themselves? Can you ask them questions? Ask them what they did well. Ask them what they wish they had done differently, when they were at your sort of stage from a career perspective. Use the people around you and ask them for advice if you need. But it is going to be something that takes a long time. Somebody gave me some good advice once. They said that a good reputation takes years to build and about 5 seconds to destroy. This building of trust, right? This reputation for competence that you want is going to take years to build. And that's because it's worth having. Just like everything worth having, it takes time to obtain. So I want you to focus on those things. I hope that helps you if you're in a similar boat to this poster. Understand, where she's coming from. I currently lead people who are a lot older than me, and I've got to the point where it really doesn't matter. It's behavior that matters, and you know what? It doesn't matter whether you've been leading for 20 years or 6 months. People take time to trust you, and so when you come into an organization, they're going to view you with a little bit of suspicion. They need to see what you do consistently over a long period of time, and then, and only then, will they properly trust you. But they are beautiful relationships when you get to the point where that mutual trust is a thing. Guys, I hope that helps. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, share the show, and until next time, I'll see you later.